Welcome to our YouTube character profile upload of Zeedan Nazir, which was taken originally from episode 199 of Conversation Street, the Coronation Street podcast, with me, Gemma.
And me, Michael.
So you're going to hear us talking about Zeedan as a character from what year was it?
We recorded it back in 2016, which was only a couple of years into of his reign in the show.
Yes.
And I suppose if we'd known back then how little time that the character was going to be in it, we'd have held out for a little bit longer.
Yeah, sorry.
Because it was about halfway through his run that we recorded this. We just finished listening to it ourselves, actually, haven't we? And there's quite a lengthy discussion, considering he'd not been in very many episodes. But
that's because he had a lot of potential for different types of storylines, which you're going to hear us talking about, and you will be able to judge as you're listening to it whether he lived up to that potential or not.
Well, if you come back at the end of listening to the podcast recording, then we'll hopefully have a little bit more to say.
Yes, at the end we'll
well. So watch this space.
Top it up.
Right, character profile time, and this is the character profile that we planned to do last week, but we didn't because we were too tired. And it is Zeedan. He's not even been in the show.
It's
this
everyone's
week.
favourite Nazir.
Right, but let's try and be positive about Zeedan, because I do actually like Zeedan more than I used to. But I think we should try and be positive
Let's
about
be positive about him.
because we might go to the gates and meet him there, and you know, if we said we don't like him, then he might not speak to us, and that'd be sad. Zeedan, they haven't decided when he was born yet, according to Corrie, because we've got circa 1997 for him.
That's what I put on my birth certificate.
Circa 19...
Yeah, circa
90.
1998.
And yeah, so he hasn't had a birthday or anything, and it's about time. But his parents, both deceased, Cal and Jamila Nazir, and he has got a sister, Alia, of course. Now, Zeedan made his first appearance at a cricket match, I believe, on the 5th of September 2014, and he has so far been in about 146 episodes, played by Kazim Akhtar, I think it's how you say it. And with a name like Akhtar, then that's your career progression sorted, really, isn't it? Your career path, I mean.
What do you mean?
You've got to be an actor.
Oh, actor. Yeah, okay, I get
That's
it.
my joke. You get my joke.
I was thinking of Admiral Akbar out of Star Wars. You know, the guy that goes, "It's a trap."
Oh, I've even heard of that quote.
Yeah, it's
So,
a meme.
Yeah, Kazim had been in Shameless before, which was that...
I can't believe he was in Shameless.
We've
No.
never watched Shameless, have we?
No.
It was that program.
I don't like the
Was
look
that
of
Channel 4 Scally program?
Yeah, it's about a bunch of scallies that get into scrapes.
Well, he was playing boozy ladies man Chesney, which is a little bit different to Zeedan's character now.
Tiny little bit.
Now, he came in 2014, so we haven't got very much to talk about for him, but yeah, we are running out of characters now. And in August 2014, Stuart Blackburn had this to say about him, so let's see if he matches up. Zeedan is funny.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Because that could be lots of different things.
Zeedan is funny, said Stuart Blackburn. He can be flirty and he's a little bit vain, as he's really into his clothes. There's not a dark side to him, but his relationship with Cal is incredibly difficult. Zeedan was brought up for most of his life by his mother and his grandparents because his dad was away in the army.
Can I just say one thing before I forget about his clothes? They did try to integrate that a little bit when he was friends with Simon, and Simon was getting the trainers to try to be cool like Zeedan, do you remember? And they were talking about clothes and all that together.
But I wouldn't say that this is a defining character trait of Zeedan, that he's into his clothes, is he?
Yeah, but okay.
Anyway, he's also said, what Zeedan experienced as a young lad was absence, which he's really angry about. His mother died a couple of years back, but when she was alive, Zeedan would have seen her sitting staring at the television and sobbing terrified whenever there are reports from Afghanistan. There's a lot of anger in Zeedan as he questions why his dad wasn't with him.
I would like to add something here as well.
Go on then.
They completely didn't do anything with that.
They made him angry.
I tell you what, they put a lot of stuff about Afghanistan in with Gary, and I think they were too scared to follow it up with Cal and talking about how it affected Cal's family. Because I think it was too heavy-handed what they did with Gary, and I think they're a bit scared of putting that in again, because it was very negative, and I don't really think it's beneficial to anybody to have that in, because everyone knows that war is crap, and I don't think that... Because the thing is, in this country, there's a big culture of kind of not as much, not as kind of cheesy as it is in America, but kind of like holding the troops up and, you know, poppies and everything. And because the royal family are so linked in with the military, because obviously the Queen is like the head of the armed forces, and all of the royal family have been in the war, and a lot of them are involved in charities. Like at the moment, Prince Harry is doing the Invictus Games, which is to do with servicemen and women. So
you've got to be careful what you say.
Like, you can't really push too much criticism of what they do in, and try to make it seem like you want them to be heroes. Like the people want them to be portrayed as heroes, but if you start to sort of like concentrate more on the damage that serving does to families and things, it just comes across maybe as a bit too negative.
Well, the thing with Zeedan and Cal is they never really had much chance to explore that anyway, because
they were never really together. Not
a huge amount, and then Cal was burned to a crisp not 6 months after Zeedan's reintroduction, and
it wasn't even in Afghanistan.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just in Victoria.
So, you know, I mean, does that go into the statistics? Do you have to wear a poppy for Cal, or does it not count?
We've always been quite critical of Zeedan, that he's been so moody and angry and everything, and I do kind of...
if I was an orphan, I'd have a chip on my shoulder.
Now I read this about it and kind of think about his bad upbringing, I kind of understand him a little bit more and sympathise with him.
We'll read the next part of what Stuart says about Zeedan.
He said Zeedan's culture and religion is also important to him. We'll see him go off for private prayers.
No, we don't.
And that's another point of difference between him and his dad.
No, it wasn't.
There's a lot of years for Cal to make up for, but it won't be easy, as Zeedan is a stubborn young man.
In Zeedan, we have all of the, like, a recipe for absolute disaster. And there was a rumour going around that there was going to be
Muslim extremism storyline.
And it really isn't difficult to see how Zeedan as a character was primed for exactly this storyline. He's got a bit of a...
chip on his shoulder about the army.
He's got a chip on his shoulder about the army. If that was in Afghanistan, he's an orphan. He's very religious. He's in a country that isn't religious at all. And you've got this other side of him, which is quite vain and materialistic and a bit opposed to the teachings of most religions, which wouldn't be, you know, supportive of flirting and being into clothes and things.
They if he like went down this route of a extremist storyline, it wouldn't be.
It certainly wouldn't be out of nowhere.
And it'd be an incredibly risky move, but it could be done right. Like, because on Lost, I'm sure we said this before about him, when they had the whole Saeed was kind of press gang, or he was peer pressure, I suppose, got him involved with those terrorists, and yet you still were able to somehow sympathise with this character.
I read a really interesting article about, I think it was a Danish teenager who was talking about how she was basically almost recruited by ISIS, and they just kind of like they insert themselves as your friend, and then they drive a wedge between you and your family, and then they kind of shepherd you closer towards your religion and make it, you know, pick out the bits that you're going to really resonate with you, and kind of like say, oh, look, everybody in the society, look at them, how they hate you, and come with us because we're the only ones that understand you. That kind of like teenage rebellion and longing to be part of something different.
I think it'd be really interesting to see that on Coronation Street, but it'd be so risky, and they'd have to get it absolutely perfect.
And to be fair, they haven't in the past handled things like this well enough to be able to take it on. But they've got a new producer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Kate Oakes would.
And it makes me wonder,
take the risk,
whether Stuart Blackburn did bring Zeedan in specifically for a storyline like this, and then chicken out or get told, no, you're not doing this.
I know, I do wonder, especially when he's saying here that his culture and religion is important to him. We go and see him go off to private prayers. I don't think we've ever had that, and there's not been any mention of a prayer room at the gym.
We've only ever seen them in the mosque at Cal's funeral.
Yeah,
and even then they didn't explain anything. They just had Leanne up with the women, and you didn't even realise that actually in mosques there is a separate area for the women, and they're not allowed to pray in the same room as the rest of the men. They didn't even have that.
They've also had they like to have Eid, don't they?
Yeah, I wonder why. I mean, I feel like it's a wasted opportunity, and I wonder whether they were planning something, and then, because the trouble is, there's always some kind of terrorism happening in Europe or in the UK, that means it's not now a good time for us to pursue this storyline. And I think maybe they're worried about that. Can you imagine the absolute PR nightmare there would be?
They got into a
if they were
storyline
starting
and then...
a storyline like that, and then suddenly there was a bomb in London and loads of people died, and then you've got Zeedan and them trying to do a really interesting story where they take a balance of both sides and they see, why does this character get drawn to this? Or I mean, it could even be one of Zeedan's friends who he's watching spiraling into this kind of horrible, anything sympathetic towards terrorism would absolutely be a complete no-no. There would be people even when they did the Hope cancer storyline, you had people saying, my daughter, my son had this, and I think that Coronation Street portrayed it in a really stupid way, and I'm disappointed with the way they covered this. Do you remember?
I do remember, but sometimes you got to take it. People criticise storylines for whatever reason, really, wouldn't they?
I know, but come on, Michael, there's a big difference between getting people in the Sun going, oh, Corrie's storyline broke my heart after my son was bombed by terrorist thugs, versus I didn't like the Hindu storyline because my son's a policeman, and I don't think he gets confused with strippers all the time.
So how come they can do it with, like, you have Homeland or whatever, and that's
because it's American.
Ambiguous. Right. Anyway,
and also people, there's a not narrower audience, and it's a lot more mature audience. Coronation Street is for everybody. Coronation Street is for people that read The Guardian, read The Independent, people that read The Sun, and people that read The Daily Mail. All these people with all different opinions and ideas in their heads about what exactly a Muslim terrorist is. You've got people that are going to be sympathetic to a storyline like that, and you've got people that are going to be... Because there's no way they can get it right. They're either going to do let's completely trash this character and make him into an unsympathetic terrorist, and then you're going to have all of the people who are Muslim saying, I can't believe you've done this to us, you've set us back again. All we're trying to do is live in peace with everybody, and you have to do a storyline like this and make us all look like terrorists. And if they do a sympathetic one, you're going to get people coming out going, why are you making out that ISIS are all friendly little misunderstood teenage people that just orphans and are just really sad, when they're beheading people and drowning them in swimming pools?
I wonder whether any other soaps, I mean, as far as we know, there might be other soaps that have had these storylines.
Yeah, we don't know, we're quite sheltered, aren't we?
Yeah. They might have had them in all the other soaps, and Coronation Street's the only one that hasn't got the guts to do it.
No, Coronation Street's like, why would we do the terrorist storyline? Everyone's done a terrorist storyline. We're doing a Hindu storyline.
Never been done before.
They get arrested.
Somebody arrested at a Hindu. Right, let's run down what has Zeedan done since he's got here. Well,
in 2014, his family was introduced because
he was the last one to arrive, wasn't he?
Cal had been in the show actually since 2013.
Yeah, he came at the end of the 2013.
And Alia appears in June of 2014, and they are always talking about him and saying...
We wondered what was going on with him, weren't we?
We don't get a great first impression of him, really, because they're just talking about how he's always on his phone.
Yeah, and we kind of imagined him being a bit younger than he turned out to be as well, weren't we?
Yeah, he's a moody teenager when he arrives.
And this was the time as well when Leanne and Cal were starting dating or whatever, and we hear that Zeedan doesn't like the idea of this because he thinks that Cal is dishonouring his mum, who just died a few years ago or whatever. And so...
well, Jamila had only died, according to the show, in 2012. And I kind of imagined it to have happened a lot longer ago than it actually did.
I don't know, really. I don't know. I thought that sounded about right to me. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So Zeedan finally turns up at this cricket match when the Rovers was going against the Flying Horse or the Weather Yards or something.
Who can forget that day?
Classic day that was.
I have to say, I don't think I'll forget that for a long time, that episode.
Steve wants Zeedan to join the team, but he storms off the pitch because Alia has invited Leanne along.
Zeedan hates Leanne. That is one of the defining...
Well, he did back then.
Elements of his personality, and you would think that would endear him to me, but it didn't.
So he got a job at the builder's yard, but then Cal kicked up a fuss because it turned out that Zeedan wasn't even earning minimum wage. I think it was this Tony who was working for, I can't remember. Anyway, Zeedan was furious about Cal's meddling. And then...
Cal was being a bit of a tiger mum here, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he was
being a bit snobby. He was like, this is too good for you.
I think it was also a case of like he knows that he's been a bad dad really, because he's been away up to this point and he was trying to support his son, and Zeedan's like, I've grown out of this now, I can't have you running around me. So he's also, later on that year, unhappy to find out that Alia has started seeing Gary. I think they try and keep their relationship secret for a bit, if I remember rightly. He's eventually won round, but he's always been incredibly protective, overprotective, we've said in the past, of his sister.
Found this weird relationship between Gary, Alia and Cal a bit awkward, because Gary and Cal kind of viewed each other as kind of equals and mates on the same kind of scene. I mean, I think that Cal was in charge of Gary, wasn't he?
Was he?
In the army. I don't remember. But it's like weird because Cal is obviously old enough to be Alia's dad, but her boyfriend, who is Cal's friend, is not. It just really did my head in.
It was a bit weird.
It is a bit weird to have your boyfriend be your dad's friend.
Yes, that would, yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
That's what happens when you're a soap and you've got a very small pool of people that you can go out
Potential love matches.
So 2015, he became
catching up already. That's right.
Yeah, not much to talk about here. So he got involved in that bizarre egg planting storyline when Sharif's chickens wouldn't lay, and Zeedan and who was it doing with him? Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it? They'd both decided to put eggs in the.
They were buying eggs, and I don't know why
it?
Sharif didn't notice they all had lion stamps.
No, they didn't. You got them from the farmers market, didn't they? Tragedy struck just over a year ago. No, just under a year ago, when Cal was killed in the Victoria Court fire, and Zeedan and Alia were left orphaned. Now Zeedan immediately blames Leanne for this because
it was her fault.
Yeah, well.
Cal, before you come down that ladder,
let me just
I want to tell you something.
I will marry you.
Listen carefully to what I'm going to say to you. Don't come down the ladder yet.
You've blown up too late.
Cal, I think he's died.
He was like, he wouldn't have been there.
What kind of metal was it?
He blames her initially, but before long, they're kind of friends again. They start to mellow towards each other, didn't they?
Well, at the moment,
because he finds out that she and Cal were engaged, and I think he realised, you must have loved each other.
I don't care. It seems like now, Leanne and Zeedan are close. They got a bit closer than they are now during 2015, because he was supporting Leanne when Simon was hitting her, which apparently is over and done with now. Never speak of it again.
I've got a feeling it's going to come back again.
He moves in to keep an eye on her, and then Simon and him bond together, and he kind of almost seems a bit protective, and it got a bit weird.
Well, it's like with Alia, isn't it? When he said he was policing who Alia can see, and then he just decides, I'm going to move in with you, Leanne, and be your personal bodyguard.
Although you are a woman and you are older than me, I am above you because I'm a man.
I'm sure we were talking back then about whether they were leading to some kind of potential relationship between Leanne and Zeedan.
This is what I said when it got a bit weird. It got very weird. Because Simon and Zeedan's relationship was also a bit weird, because it was kind of like, is it this father-son? Is this friends? Is Simon got a little bit of a crush on Zeedan in the most
romance crush?
Yeah, in the most non-sexual way.
He did kind of idolise him a bit, didn't he?
He really took a shine to Zeedan, and he was always trying to impress him. And it just got, the whole relationships between those three characters was just like, I can't label this, and so it makes me uncomfortable.
So later that year, he discovered that Jason had a one-night stand with Alia, gets rather annoyed by this news, threatens to push him over the builder's yard balcony over where Tina went. He told Alia he was disgusted with her behaviour and was ashamed of her, but then they made up. So,
that's fine.
Good for that. Now, at the end of the year, he had a bizarre career change, didn't he? He decided...
Well, he had inherited the gym from Cal. And then he decided it was too much work.
Yeah, that was one of these, like, one minute he seemed fine working there, and the next minute it's like, I can't cope with the pressure of owning a gym. And so, now I can cook, by the way.
I tell you what, it would be really nice to pursue, and this is what really kind of annoys me about all of these pampered rich kids that have suddenly appeared on the street, which is Alia, Kate, Aidan and Zeedan, to me, are all pampered rich kids. And it must be really nice to kind of have the room and time and no pressure to pursue whatever job it is that you would like to have, with no expectations of earning money out of it.
And you're lucky when you're on the street, because there's always a job opening whenever you happen to decide you want to have a career change.
Yeah,
I'm bored of this job. Oh, there's one.
Oh, I want that one. I'll do. I mean, working as a sous chef is really not very well paid, but obviously with working as a chef in general, the sky's the limit to how much money you can earn.
When he became a chef, I was very like,
why?
Where has this come from? But actually, I think I prefer him working at the bistro. I accept that.
Can I just say, this is another example of them skirting around the issue of he is a Muslim, because he works in a place that sells alcohol, and a lot of Muslims don't sell. Some of them do, and some of them don't. And some, for example, some Muslim people. Workers in places like Asda and stuff won't sell alcohol because they don't have to.
Zeedan doesn't.
Part of their religion.
Zeedan doesn't drink, does he?
He doesn't drink. He doesn't mind Rana drinking. He probably does. He doesn't like Alia drinking. But I want to know: does he cook with alcohol? Because he probably has to. Would he eat it if that was in it? Does he ever cook pork? Does he ever cook bacon? They never speak about these things, but it would come up in his job. Would he make an exception for it? Or is Robert change the menu so there are no pork products or alcohol on the menu?
Or maybe Robert's
remember
the one that cooks that.
When we went to Brick Lane in London the other day, when we went into the restaurant and we sat down, it's an Indian restaurant, and they said to us, if you want any alcohol, let us know, we'll give you a token and you'll go to the shop, the off license. And we were like, what does that mean? And I looked it up, and it said that on Brick Lane a lot of the businesses are owned by Muslims who don't sell alcohol, and so they have arrangements with local off licenses and stuff, so that they don't have to keep it on their premises, but they can still get money from selling it.
That would have been quite interesting if they'd had that. And it does go to show that they're trying. You
It
partly
seems to
think that
me-
they're trying to edge him away from being a religious
can I just
character, and
say-
then unless he feels like it, in which case he's
that's
very
like,
Muslim.
But that's like anyone though. Anyone's like hypocritical. But
Yeah,
it seems to
Fairweather
me
was
like they're scared of even mentioning it, as though mentioning it is a criticism. But actually, it shouldn't. You shouldn't be scared of saying that he believes this or he does that. It shouldn't be like a blanket criticism of somebody that they don't eat pork or they don't drink alcohol. It's just a fact of his life that is his religion, and he doesn't do it. So can we not skirt around it? Can we actually
Bring it up.
What's he going to do in Ramadan? Is he going to be cooking in there all day long? He's going to be hot. He's going to be on his feet all day long. He's going to be doing a physical job. How is he going to cope without being able to? I mean, obviously, hundreds and thousands and millions of Muslims do this all the time, so it's no big deal. But it's going to be an interesting, struggle for his character to have to do this.
I hope so.
But they won't. Will they mention it, or are they scared?
I don't know.
I feel like they think it's a can of worms, and they're scared of opening it.
They like to prod it every now and again.
They like to go around it and sort of like go, "What do you think? What do you think? Do you like this or not? Is there gonna be an article in the Sun tomorrow criticising us about this, or the Daily Mail?"
Well, I don't know.
Right. So
I haven't got as much to say about this as you.
Well, it's late, and I get more opinionated the later time goes.
Yeah.
And it was a deadline week.
I get tireder.
It's a deadline week, which means I'm crazy with no sleep.
What I have to say about this is that I was initially sceptical of Zeedan suddenly being a super chef. Now I'm quite interested that he's there, because I like having the Nazirs spread around. And as much as I like the idea of the gym when it first came, I'm a bit bored of gym scenes now. I'm no fan of the bistro either.
We got really excited about two things to do with the Nazirs. One was the gym appearing, and number two was the fact that Alia was some kind of fashion guru who
she was going to steal the factory away, wasn't she?
She had designs to get the factory off of Carla, and she also had a background in studying fashion at university, and she also was developing this side business to do online sales.
Yeah.
And where did that go? Nowhere.
But anyway, I will accept Zeedan being a chef now. I'm fine with it. His character is still young enough that you can make these little odd tweaks to it.
I just think they're just staring a storyline in the face
Not going down there.
There are conflicts to do with his religion that might come up in this storyline, and is he going to compromise his religion, or is he going to stick to his principles and say, even though this is what you want me to do, I'm not going to do it? I just feel like I would tackle this if I was in charge of Corrie.
Well, maybe Kate Oakes thinks the same as you. We'll have to see.
Maybe I am Kate Oakes.
That'd be amazing. 2016, let's just see what Zeedan's been doing this year. Well, he has fancied Rana, who's Alia's university pal, but she seems to have been around the block a few times.
I don't get this relationship between Rana and Zeedan, because everything Rana does is what Zeedan criticised Alia for doing at the time. When she got drunk and slept with Jason, it was the end of Zeedan's world, as far as I could tell. He was disgusted. And then you get him crushing on Rana, who is probably the most worldly woman in the show. She drinks, she's got these boyfriends that she's obviously slept with. She takes him to the cupboard to have a snog, and it feels like it's going to go a bit further.
There was that older guy, wasn't there? The Rana's ex
Rana's ex who looked like some kind of weird
Playboy
rich guy who had a bodyguard and a personal assistant with him. I hope
there's some untapped history there for Rana. Are they split up probably by the end, didn't they? Because he was too uncomfortable with her lifestyle and everything, and she wanted to go to bed with him, but he wouldn't.
He doesn't. Yeah, he says you're too special for that. He doesn't say I'm sorry, but it's against my religion. He says you're too special. What we've got together, I don't want. To me, you're too special for me to dishonour you like that. But he doesn't come out and say it's against my religion, and I don't see why he doesn't.
No, it'd be interesting to see them have like a bit of a heart-to-heart.
I guess it's kind of, he doesn't need to spell it out for her, but for the viewers it should be a bit more obvious, because everybody knows that's why he thinks it.
So, and all in all, with Zeedan, then he seems to be the character that we can have the most discussion about, the one that's the most to say about. Would you say he is the most interesting Nazir at this point? I still prefer Yasmin to watch. She's the most entertaining, but I think Zeedan has got the potential to be the most interesting one.
He's the most complex one, which is interesting because he's had a lot less conflict with his religion than Alia has. Because Alia had that big religious...
Yeah, when she slept with Jason.
Kind of... Oh, what am I thinking of? The word
crisis of faith.
Yeah, exactly. Where she did exactly what she never wanted to do, and she's just kind of like gone, doesn't matter anymore. But I feel like there's a potential for Zeedan, but it's disappointing in a way because I feel like it's never going to be realised.
Yeah, it's always going to be. Maybe it's a bit too far, but it does kind of make him more interesting because than some of the other nice guys. Because there's quite a few nice guys on the street of his age. There's Gary, there's Luke, there's Andy. And all of them are a little bit dull. They're kind of nice, aren't they? But
well, I mean,
they're also
even
a little bit
someone
bland.
like Andy, who had such a nefarious beginning, is now the most likeable sort of, I'd take him home to my mum any day bloke on the street. Zeedan has always got a bit of a kind of, darkness about him.
Yeah, which makes him more interesting than those guys. Even
conflict where you can tell that he's got so many conflicting thoughts in his brain.
I think if the likes of Gary and Luke and Andy left Coronation Street, I'd be like, meh, oh well. If Zeedan left, I'd be like, oh, that's a bit of a missed potential. I'd probably be like, oh well, I'll get over it, but I'd feel there was missed potential. But if some of the other the nice guys went, Tyrone's a nice guy, and I would be devastated if he left because of his history in the street and everything. But yeah, I'm surprised how much in my head I've turned around against Zeedan, because it always used to be whenever he was on the screen, be like, no, get him off, don't like him, not interested in him at all. But I am more now, and I like him now, and I understand why he's angry now that I'm looking more into his past.
Didn't you say that the actor got in trouble about the portrayal of the character that he played in Shameless?
Yeah, he did actually.
Because he was kind of like a very worldly, not very good Muslim, and the actor himself is Muslim.
Yeah.
And he said, it doesn't bring any shame upon me as a person what my character's doing.
That's my character.
Because there was a lot of people complaining and saying that he wasn't a good example of what a Muslim should be like, and he was like, well, no, it's a character, it's not. So he obviously doesn't shy away from these kinds of things.
No, so it makes you wonder whether he would say anything to...
Well, it makes you wonder whether they hired him for that reason and said, look, this guy's done that stuff before.
Yeah.
He can handle this, let's hire him because we've got these storylines in our minds. Yeah. And then they brought him in and they went, oh, I don't know now.
It'd be very interesting to see what Kate does with him because, I mean... The Nazirs are Stuart Blackburn's family, aren't they? And there was a huge risk that when new producer comes in, she's like, right, I'm going to make my mark, I'm going to cut the apron strings. I'm going to pull away from Stuart Blackburn and get rid of his family. So what can I do with them? If there's nothing big that I can do with them, they could be on the chopping block.
I hope they don't get rid of the Nazirs.
So do I.
For many reasons. Number one, I like most of them. Even Sharif, who is kind of like the most bland guy.
I don't dislike it. There's none of them that I really dislike, which is a change from a year ago.
Yeah. I like, well, they've got the community centre that they're involved with, so they've got a bit of an anchor there.
In the gym.
I also think it's super important that we've got a family on the street who is Muslim, and it shows the actual demographics of this country. And if they got rid of them, who are they left with? It's a bit shameful as far as I'm concerned. This is the first family that we've got in there who's been a Muslim family. You've got, I mean, probably a lot of people watching it think that Dev's Muslim, but he's Hindu.
Yeah, I think they should keep them. They need to keep a family and try with them, because they've had so many families move into that house over the year.
the cursed
house. And then got rid of them for a few years because they haven't quite clicked. I think that the Nazirs are good enough, and if they keep hold of them and develop them more,
especially
rather than just get rid of them,
especially with this newfound rivalry that
with Yasmin and Sally
that we always wanted to happen, and it's taken this long.
Where's the orangery?
Where's the damn orangery?
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
But I mean, amongst the Nazirs,
I think that Sally should get back from Blackpool, and then there's just finds this orangery next door.
Yeah.
And Yasmin said, "Well, I called round to see if you would object. Would you want in?" So I just went ahead.
I mean, when Zeedan first came in, I would have ranked them all and said
I'd have put him at the bottom.
But now he's probably my second favourite.
Yeah, after Yasmin.
So it would go Yasmin, Zeedan, Sharif, and then Alia, because I don't like Alia at all anymore.
Not at the moment. Yeah, Sharif's one that I'm just not fussed about. He I could take him or leave him, but Alia is not. Yeah.
Alia's bland. Alia's pointless at the moment.
She is. She's not really done much for so long. If you didn't
put her in it, I wouldn't notice. And I mean, also, in the factory, she's almost entirely replaceable by Kate.
Yeah.
I mean, how many sort of young, long, black-haired, I'm into fashion and trendy and I work at the factory because of nepotism characters do you need? The only reason Alia is still there is because Carla feels guilty about her dad dying.
I concur with your ranking.
Good.
So well done, Zeedan. You're working your way up.
Zeedan is doing a good job, because I absolutely hated him so much for a long time.
Yeah, they built him up as a character that was going to be horrible. He came in and he was horrible. And it was
that, the
he's nicer now. I mean,
I don't think he's nice. I just think he's complicated, and I feel the same way about him as I did about Owen.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of rage inside him.
Younger Owen.
And I think also in Zeedan, there's a bit of misogyny there as well, that I don't think he really realises
No,
is
I
there.
don't think so. He thinks he's doing the right thing.
He feels like it's his job to tell women what to do. And, he's the moral police of people that are in his, friendship or family group.
Which we haven't seen much of his friendship group, have we? Have we ever met any of Zeedan's friends?
Well,
I don't know whether...
I think you'll find we've met one of them quite well. Simon, his Bezzy mate.
Have you met any friends of his own age? I mean,
I
would be interested to see what his friendship group is like, and whether he hangs around with other Muslims or whether he hangs around with white people or Christians or whatever. And
I mean, we've never seen him go to the mosque.
No.
And we've never seen him pray.
Right, I think we should draw this discussion to a close. Quite interesting, but
I wonder what other people think.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know.
What do you think about Zeedan, and what do you think about...
What's his potential? What do you think about his religion and the lack of pushing it on the show he came in as a character that was supposed to
I think champion. A lot of people probably would say, I'm glad they don't go on about it, because I feel like it should be treated the same way that, like, Sophie's Christianity is treated. You don't ever really see her praying, and it's not a big thing. Even Billy...
Yeah.
He doesn't go on about God all the time.
No. Yeah, so let us know what you think if you've got ideas.
Blah, blah, blah. I'll shut up now.
You shut up now.
And there we go. That was our Zeedan character profile from episode 199.
It's like a little mosquito trapped in amber. It's like a snapshot of a past era.
Yeah. Interesting talking about like what's potential he might have, and what Kate Oates might want to do with the character.
Although and it is Kate Oates and not Kate Oakes.
That was back in a time when we couldn't remember whether it was Kate Oates or Kate Oakes, and we used them both interchangeably.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But from Wild Oaks, acorns of Zeedan did not grow. Because I still don't think that he really lived up to the potential that he had. Although I was interested hearing and remembering how much we despised the character when he first came into it and grew to like him. And I think looking back on him, I do think he was all right in the end. It was also interesting hearing what we said about, I hope they keep the Nazirs on, hope they don't waste the potential, when currently there's only Yasmin and Alia left in the programme. And I said, if Zeedan did ever end up leaving, I wouldn't be heartbroken, but I'd just end up saying that was a bit of a waste. And looking back on it now, because it's been a couple of years since he has left, that is what I think, really.
Yeah.
He could have stayed in the show and been quite an interesting, well-developed, deep, surly kind of character. But it just kind of whimpered out in the end, didn't it?
It feels a bit annoying because people like Zeedan exist in real life. People who are young people who have a very rigid moral framework that they work from, but you would never believe that from watching Coronation Street, because every single young character, even if they get introduced as somebody who's a bit different from the norm, like Sinead, I don't drink, like we had Alina, she was very reluctant to start a relationship with Seb because of her circumstances, but as soon as they kind of establish themselves in the show, they just get made into this mould of the same kind of moral compass, whereas Zeedan kind of did maintain that very rigid sense of right and wrong.
He did get drunk, I remember, one time.
I know,
he had lots of hardships, bless him, to go through in his final few years. All the way through his time on the street, really. No wonder he wanted to get away from Weatherfield, move to Spain.
It's a rite of passage that any religious character will have their faith tested and fail, like Billy did.
Yes.
And it's also interesting that the only thing really that remains of Zeedan on the street now is Speed Dial, and that legacy that he created of having a Muslim restaurant that doesn't serve alcohol is being trashed as we speak by Jeff, who is introducing alcohol to the restaurant just to get at Yasmin.
Yeah, it seems that as the years go on, he's just getting more and more erased. So it's interesting to have him brought up recently. I mean, we're releasing this character profile this week because it's his wedding, obviously, coming up.
In April 2020.
Exactly. But I mean, once this is over and done with, I kind of think they might not even need to mention him again. Although I'd be interested to know what his reaction would have been to the Yasmin and Jeff storyline had he stuck around for a little bit longer.
Yeah, so let's talk about what happened to him after we finished off the character profile that we just did. Left him in 2016. From there.
Well, he is getting married to Rana, really, wasn't it?
He married Rana in a Islamic ceremony.
Yeah, he had the Nikah ceremony in November, I think, 16, and then a year later,
they had the legal ceremony, because they still don't allow, stupidly, different religions that aren't Christian. Which is it? Just Christian?
I can't remember. We've talked about it.
Yeah, we have spoken about it, but it's not automatically, you're not legally married at the end of it like you would be if you got married in a Christian faith church.
But we talked in that character profile then about the potential for kind of clashes between Rana and Zeedan because of him being a lot more devout in his religion, whereas she was, fair weather Muslim.
I think,
and they never really delved into that, did they?
I think it's a good thing to cover, because when you're outside of a religion, it's very difficult. It's very easy to go, well, you don't follow all the rules, so you're not really a real whatever. But whereas when you're in that religion, many Christians don't follow all of the rules properly, and they would even argue amongst themselves about which rules that you're supposed to follow and which you aren't. So it was very realistic to me, I thought, the way that all the Nazirs and Rana have different interpretations of how far they're willing to go or what they're willing to do. So like we have Yasmin, who when she started in the show, she wouldn't drink any alcohol at all, and then she started drinking glasses of red wine to calm down, and now she is back to not drinking at all, but only because she's being abused by her husband.
with the whole religious side of things as well, we were complaining a little bit in that character profile that they'd kind of skirted around a lot of the Muslim issues, but I was glad at least in Zeedan's final years we did get to see a little bit more of Islam, because we learnt about Muslim weddings. We
that
saw
was nice.
a little bit of turmoil from Rana when she was obviously having these feelings towards Kate, and she wanted to split up with Zeedan, so she went to see the Imam, for example. So that was all kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And Rana's funeral, of course, as well. But there was still, it didn't feel like the show was fully committed to having and showing the full ramifications of what an Islamic family.
It was still better than it had been.
Yeah,
by a lot.
Although equally, when Rana and Kate's relationship came out, they didn't go too far into saying you're not allowed to do this because it's against the Quran. It was a lot more about, well, what will your family think about it?
It was like the culture, the community. A lot of things were blamed on the community, as though that was completely separate from religion and had no influence on it, when we know that the community was their only real consideration was, are you being a good Muslim according to the way that we view the rules? So he got married to Rana, and then, as you just mentioned, Rana began a relationship with Kate, and Zeedan found out eventually, because they were snogging on the sofa when Rana had a cold.
Was supposed to be
really horrible. So she's snotting all over each other.
Whatever turns you on.
So he finds out about this, and Rana's parents also find out, and Rana's parents are by far the most strict Muslims that we've ever seen in the show.
Yeah, especially Hassan, her dad.
Yeah. They bribe the couple to stay together because the community, they don't want them to rush into a divorce. It will mean they lose face to their peers, so they want them to stay married for a certain amount of time, and don't want anything to come out about Rana's relationship. So they bribe Zeedan to keep his mouth shut, because he obviously, being a devout person and also being a normal human being, is thinking, I want out of this relationship immediately if my wife is fancying somebody else. And so he agrees to this deal, which is that they're going to give him money for Speed Dial.
Yeah.
To open Speed Dial, because at this point he was running it as a van, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Speed Dial was a van, which Rana and Kate ended up shagging in the back of, as I remember.
Almost, I think. They were
almost
caught.
did. They had the bras on, so it didn't count. So he wanted to convert that into a restaurant. They fund it. Eventually, it all falls apart because the love that cannot be contained, even through monetary deals. And then what happens then?
He just kind of, in the end, goes
he just
off.
Goes, I
don't really blame him, because because Rana just she couldn't leave Kate. It was clear that she had feelings for her and that she wasn't going to give her up.
Yeah.
And who wants to stick around their wife while she's having it off with someone else? Yeah, exactly. So he ends up beating somebody up, I think, in his final week, who's trying to attack Rana, and he thinks he's killed him, but luckily this guy survives. But that makes him take stock of the situation and realises that he can't stay in Weatherfield anymore, and wants to start a new life. I think in London he goes to.
Well, he goes all over the place, doesn't he? Because he didn't come back for Rana's funeral.
No, he couldn't make it.
That's because he was in...
Was it? He was
in Cannes.
He was in Cannes.
So he's in Cannes. So we know that he went to London. Then at some point he's moved to France, and then since then he's moved to Spain, which is where he is at the moment.
What a jet setter!
He's taking advantage of that EU citizenship while he can. So he's in Spain. He's found the love of his life for the second time.
Second time lucky.
Charm. And he has apparently given up on family values and caring about the other Nazirs, because he's not even that bothered.
No, whenever Alia's saying comes. Look, our gran has married this guy. He's controlling her. She's not believing anything I say. Please come back and help me. And he's like, nah. I'm in Spain.
But also, he's not even really
hot birds, and I got to keep my eye on this one because I don't want to go off becoming a lesbian behind my back like happened to the last one.
Also, he's not that bothered whether Alia or Yasmin come to the wedding?
No, I know.
It's like, oh, you've invited yourself, did you? Well, I guess I'm not going to uninvite you, but you weren't actually welcome.
Oh, well, it does fit in with his surly, moody persona.
The actor himself, Kazim Akhtar, has said that he wanted to move on to do other projects. He said he was going to be in the show for 3 years, didn't he? Then move on and do something a bit longer than that. So
it's a shame. I would welcome him back. I think. I don't know whether. Obviously, I don't know whether he's been quite down on the down low. I haven't seen what Kazim's been up to the last couple of years. But I would certainly welcome him back because, as we said, he's really got potential, that character. And he's also, so in a time when so many Coronation Street characters are being, dumbed down or goofed up or, just made to be a bit silly and comic relief, I think Zeedan was the sort of person who was, straight up serious. I don't think he could be made, he couldn't be infantilized or imbecilized or whatever the right word is. And sometimes you need just a stoic, serious kind of chap to balance out the Steve McDonalds of this world and Brian Packens and so on.
Yes, it's nice to have. It was nice to have him there, and I think he would be welcome back. And the nice thing is that we always thought that the Nazirs were a great family to have on the show, and the more they get whittled down, the more worrying it becomes as to whether they're going to stay the distance. I really think that this current storyline with Jeff and Yasmin shows that they are committed to keeping this family in the spotlight, which is nice. And Alia's always doing something, whether or not I think she's doing a good job of it.
Well, I can certainly see once the storyline's out of the way, Yasmin taking a backseat for a long time, and that's what normally happens, though. Just to be clear, go round in the rotation, don't they? We'd moan for a long time that Yasmin wasn't getting a proper storyline, and she certainly is now. So I wouldn't be surprised if she disappeared off screen for a bit, but I do hope they keep them in. And I wouldn't be bothered if they got rid of Alia. Can we just swap Zeedan for Alia, please? That'd be the ideal situation for me.
Yeah.
Although Alia's actions in recent months in this Jeff storyline have certainly made me warm to the character a little bit more. She gets to use her powers of condescension for good, I suppose.
Yeah, for once. It's handy, isn't it?
Yeah.
The door is open somewhat for Zeedan to come back. It's not like he needs... The thing is, he doesn't need Rana and Kate to come back.
No.
He needs the Nazirs to come back, and they're still there.
Yeah. Well, they're still there. They're keeping the street warm for him. Although how it will compare to Cannes, Spain, I don't know how warm Weatherfield really is, but can only hope.
Well, it's nice weather at the moment, at least.
It's sunny outside right now, Zeedan. Come on, go and get married over here. Right. Hope you all enjoyed listening to our character profile there of Zeedan. It got quite heavy at times, I think, and if anyone's got anything that they'd like to say
sorry,
about
I was such a windbag in that.
Oh, don't worry, we're all used to that. If anyone's got any of their own comments to add or any final thoughts on Zeedan, do write in and let us know. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.